Hey there, welcome to SI Now. I'm Maggie Gray. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We hope you're enjoying food, family, and plenty of football. But before you OD on turkey with all the trimmings, here are Ryan Aselta and Super Bowl champion Chris Canty with a look back at the most memorable Thanksgiving Day NFL games.
All right, Chris, there's been so many memorable games, memorable moments on Thanksgiving Day in the NFL. Let's talk about some of our greatest Thanksgiving Day memories. And we start with the best game that we agreed to. That is Miami at Dallas, 1993. This one had everything, including a snowstorm in Dallas. What do you remember most about that ball game? Cowboys, Dolphins, 1993.
Well, it has to be the Leon Lett play, right? It has to be the Leon Lett play getting stripped and then leading to the go-ahead Pete Stoyanovich field goal, the Miami Dolphins beating the Dallas Cowboys. Few people know this, but that was the last game that Miami would win that season. And on the other side of the coin, that was the last game that the Dallas Cowboys would lose. They would go on to win the Super Bowl. So just really, that was a turning point for both teams, I think. But you remember that game, obviously, it's classic matchup, Cowboys, Dolphins, the Leon Lett play. It was in the snow. You love playing in the snow as a football player. That was awesome.
You just don't expect it on Thanksgiving in Dallas, and you don't expect a guy, a veteran player, when the ball just needs to be left alone and the game is over, to come sliding in out of nowhere. And that came on the heels, of course, of the Super Bowl the year before, when he was caught by Don Beebe running in for a touchdown.
Absolutely.
But Lett recovered. He did just fine.
He did all right. Made a couple Pro Bowls. Now he's assistant defensive line coach down there in Dallas. He's doing okay.
Yeah, and Cowboys did just fine as well. They went on to win the Super Bowl that year. But Stoyanovich was the game winner that day for the Dolphins with the game-winning field goal. All right, our best passing performance on Thanksgiving came Packers at Lions 2007. This game featured Brett Favre completing 20 consecutive passes in a row on Thanksgiving. The Packers won the game 37-26. Chris, this was vintage gunslinger in this game.
Absolutely. When you see Brett Favre, he's getting that thing going. It's like one of those pitchers in the Major League Baseballs, getting that no-hitter going. It was kind of like that for Brett Favre, seeing what he was able to do, slicing up that team, that defense on Thanksgiving like he's slicing turkey. It was awesome to be able to watch him at his best. All the zip on his passes, like he could throw the ball to pinpoint accuracy. It was awesome to be able to watch that, of course, in a traditional Thanksgiving matchup against the Detroit Lions. That was awesome to see.
31 of 41 that day, 381 yards and 3 touchdowns for Favre on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That's a heck of a holiday right there.
It's a pretty good day. That's having a day.
Yeah, you know what's also great about Thanksgiving was seeing the Detroit Lions. They play every year, and for a while that meant getting to watch the best running back in the league. That was Barry Sanders. Chicago Bears at Detroit Lions, 1997. That gets our best rushing performance. Barry Sanders finished the game with 167 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. And his scores weren't little 1-yard punch-ins either. Instead, it was classic Sanders. He cut in, he cut out. Bears defenders were grabbing for everything, and they got air. They couldn't get Barry Sanders. And this was video game Barry Sanders.
Absolutely. It was video game Barry Sanders. He was at his best. You look at that game, they were down 17-3, and then he was able to get that touchdown to give them some momentum right before the half in the 2-minute drill, 40-yard touchdown run, and then he just kept ripping big runs in the second half, a touchdown run of 25 yards, touchdown run of 15 yards. I mean, he really had it going. The Chicago Bears didn't know what hit him. They couldn't grab him all day long. Just really impressed to see Barry Sanders at his best on one of the biggest stages in the National Football League, which is playing on Thanksgiving.
And this was his second to final year in the league. He retired only 1 year after this. He had over 2,000 yards the year we're talking about. His yards per carry were over 6 yards per carry.
Unbelievable.
And 128 yards per game.
Who does that?
And to think he played one more year and he hung it up. But, you know, we kind of got gypped. We didn't get to see more Barry Sanders on Thanksgiving.
That's the Detroit Lions' fault. I blame the Detroit Lions organization.
Hey, we're keeping it positive.
Should have gave Barry Sanders more to work with.
Keeping it positive.
Okay.
It's Thanksgiving.
Okay.
All right. Best defensive performance on Thanksgiving comes when the New York Jets took on the Dallas Cowboys in 2007, and our own Chris Canty.
Hey.
You remember this game well, don't you?
I do. Matter of fact, I brought a prop. Hold on one second. Hey,
look what we got here.
I bought the award in, the Turducken, and then the Phil Simms Iron Man Award. It was great being able to perform like that, play against one of my hometown teams, the New York Jets, as a Dallas Cowboy, and being able to get that big win. We actually gave them a beatdown. It was an ugly game. It wasn't much at all, but it was fun to be able to enjoy that. Had my family there, everybody there celebrating Thanksgiving, being able to watch it and shut down the New York Jets again, and then have an opportunity to take a bite out of one of those turkey legs after the game while they were giving me my award. So it was a pretty awesome moment, pretty special moment for me. That was a really good football team we had in Dallas that year, 2007. We were 13-3. That was a good year for us.
34-3. I'd say that was a bit of a beatdown on Thanksgiving.
Absolutely.
You had a sack in that ball game as well.
Yeah.
Gotta dust this off, polish it up a little bit, don't you think?
That's all right.
That's
some
good hardware right there.
It's nice little something for the trophy case.
All right, we'll finish up with the most embarrassing performance on Thanksgiving. That came in 2012, the Patriots and Jets. And that's where we got the butt fumble. Mark Sanchez running into his offensive lineman really summed up the season for the New York Jets. They lost this game 49-19. Chris, I remember waiting up. Remember, this was the third game of the day. It was the evening game on Thanksgiving. I waited up to watch my Jets play on Thanksgiving, and this is what I got. I wanted to throw up my pecan pie after this game.
Well, as a Jets fan, you should be used to it, right? But, I mean, I digress. Listen. The butt fumble, this thing is never going to go away. I mean, poor Brandon Moore, he has to be on this highlight reel. He didn't expect his quarterback to literally run up his rear like that. So it's just weird, that's a whole weird play that just doesn't happen in the National Football League. And so it's going to live in infamy. But, I mean, that was a terrible, terrible, terrible performance by the New York Jets at home, getting blown out by the New England Patriots. And I guess the butt fumble play just sums up how that game went.
They don't call the run up your rear play in the huddle, do they, Chris?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't know how the offensive coordinator would diagram that. I don't want to know how.
There's some of our best memories from Thanksgiving. I'm sure we're going to have some more great ones this Thanksgiving. Chris, happy Thanksgiving to you.
All right, happy Thanksgiving, my friend.
Thanksgiving to you guys.
Thanks, guys. The most memorable Thanksgiving Day game for me, 2013, when Steelers coach Mike Tomlin tripped Jacoby Jones of the Ravens on a kick return. What was he thinking? Hopefully we won't get a repeat performance when the Steelers travel to Indy tonight. Well, here's a man who never gets tripped up, our lead fantasy writer, Michael Beller.
For the first time since week 3, all 32 teams will take the field this week. This should make for a fun week with every fantasy roster at full strength, but there are still plenty of tough decisions to make. We'll help you do that right now. At quarterback, start Derek Carr. The Oakland signal caller has turned into a star before our eyes this season, showing up as a QB1 more often than not. The Panthers have regressed mightily as a passing defense this season, allowing the 9th most points per game to quarterbacks. They're unlikely to be at 100% this week, too, making Carr's job all the easier. He's a top 10 option for week 12. Stay away from Ben Roethlisberger. His home road splits have reached a new, uglier level this season, put on obvious display last week. Roethlisberger threw for just 167 yards in the Steelers' win over the Browns, failing to throw a touchdown for the second time this season. In 5 road games this year, Roethlisberger has completed fewer than 60% of his passes for 1,177 yards, 6.01 yards per attempt, 5 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. He's just not the same quarterback away from Heinz Field. He should be on your bench when the Steelers visit the Colts on Thanksgiving night. Tevin Coleman should return for the Falcons this week, and that has him on track to rejoin fantasy starting lineups too. Coleman has been out since suffering a hamstring injury in Week 7, but has been practicing all week and is a safe bet to take the field against the Cardinals on Sunday. By the time he suits up, he will have had more than a month to recover from the injury. All systems appear to be go for one of the more dynamic dual threats out of the backfield in the league. Get Isaiah Crowell on your bench. In his last 7 games, he has 167 rushing yards, 194 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns. That comes out to 6.87 standard league points per game. Crowell hasn't rushed for more than 63 yards in any of those contests. Cleveland's offense has struggled all season, and with Josh McCown starting, we could be in for a heavier dose of Duke Johnson. Crowell shouldn't be anywhere near a fantasy starting lineup. Keep Steve Smith in your lineups this week. He returned from an ankle injury in Week 9, catching 4 passes for 47 yards. In the 2 games since shaking off the rust, he has 13 grabs for 159 yards and a pair of touchdowns. Smith continues to produce on a consistent basis at 37 years old. The 16-year veteran will be a tough cover for a Cincinnati defense that has allowed 7.36 yards per attempt this season. Sit Emmanuel Sanders. Sanders hasn't found the end zone since Week 4 and has fallen short of the 100-yard mark every game since Week 3. He does have 3 80-yard games since then, but that doesn't move the needle a whole lot when your touchdown upside is low. Trevor Siemian has had his moments, but he simply isn't consistent enough to make the best use of Sanders and Demaryius Thomas. That limits Sanders' ceiling at the wide receiver 3 level and has him on the wrong side of the start-sit debate for this week. Zach Ertz has now had 3 solid games in a row after catching 6 passes for 35 yards and a touchdown against the Seahawks in Week 11. He had what would have been a 57-yard score wiped out by a careless illegal formation penalty by Nelson Aguilar, robbing him of a huge day in a tough spot. Ertz has turned himself into a key weapon for Carson Wentz and should be trusted as a fantasy starter more often than he isn't. Fire him up with confidence with the Eagles facing the Packers on Monday night this week. Julius Thomas just posted his 7th straight game with fewer than 30 receiving yards. The most recent embarrassment came against the Lions, who entered the game allowing the second most points per game to tight ends on the year. Thomas is a complete afterthought in the fantasy community. Not only should he be out of the starting lineup, he should be on the waiver wire in most leagues. Finally, it's not a great week for streaming defenses, with many of last week's best options, such as the Dolphins and Giants, carrying over as stream-worthy into this week as well. If you didn't get one of them last week, take a look at the Tennessee Titans. Their improved defense heads to Chicago to take on a Bears team that will be without Jake Butler, Alshon Jeffrey, and Zach Miller. The Titans should take advantage. That'll do it for the Week 12 edition of Stardom or Sit 'em. I'll see you all right here next week for waiver wire advice. Until then, this is Michael Beller wishing you a happy Thanksgiving and good luck this weekend.
U.S. Soccer has been in the headlines lately, from the decision to fire men's coach Jurgen Klinsmann to the women renewing their dedication to the fight for equal pay. One of the women leading the charge is Carli Lloyd. The FIFA World Player of the Year and World Cup hero has written a new book called When No One Was Watching. She revealed to us some personal details in this unguarded moment.
Well, I started playing soccer when I was 5, and from that moment on, I had such a passion and love for the game. I was always outside playing. So I would say at an early age, I knew it was something I wanted to pursue. Professionally wise, I think, as I was in college, I thought to myself that this would be a great gig to continue on with. I think the misconception of being a pro athlete is probably the fact that it is incredibly challenging to make it to the top, but I think it's even more challenging to stay at the top. It's a mental grind and a battle each and every day. Not only do you have to be physically ready, mentally you have to be ready. You have to be willing to struggle with obstacles and rise above, fall down, get back up. But it's definitely a lot harder than everyone thinks. I think the biggest struggle throughout my career has been without my parents. I loved my parents, still love my parents. They meant everything to me growing up. They laid the foundation, they sacrificed their time and their money and just everything to create a platform for me to continue to be successful. And I'm so appreciative of that. It's been hard. I'd be lying to say it wasn't. It's been hard to not have them in my corner, not celebrate the joyous moments on and off the pitch, and hoping that things can work out. But it was a tough decision to make to really open up about this in my book, and I'm genuine and sincere about everything that I say. Well, I think it's so important that you carry yourself as being a great role model. As an athlete, as a professional athlete. For me, it is all about being a role model, and I think the biggest thing is you need good character. You have to be a respectful teammate, you have to respect your coaches, you have to be a good person on and off the field, and I really pride myself in that. And when I walk out my front door, I don't have to switch on the role model hat, because that's just a part of who I am, and it's ingrained in me, and it's something that I want to share with the generations to come and continue to inspire people. I think the one takeaway that I would like people to come away with is the type of person I am on and off the field. I never switch off. I'm constantly working hard to better myself as a person, as a player, and I am who I am. I don't try to be anybody else. I pride myself in working extremely hard when no one is watching. So those types of messages is something that I want to help inspire others, as well as being able to overcome whatever challenge may come my way.
Well, this Thanksgiving show started with football, so let's end there too. The Pro Football Hall of Fame is getting a makeover. Recently, the president of the Hall, David Baker, stopped by our studio to tell us about the changes coming to Canton. David Baker, president of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Lots of changes coming to Canton very soon. You had a big announcement, some new naming rights, and really a sponsor that has the philosophy of the Hall of Fame in mind? Tell us about it.
You know, Maggie, it is a great institution, but we announced, as you know, last week that the development that we're building around the hall, nearly $600 million, will be called Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village. And Johnson Controls is a innovation, state-of-the-art, world-class technology company that specializes in smart buildings. So this will be the first smart sports and entertainment city in the world. And we're excited about that because we want Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village to be ready in 3 years from now when we celebrate the NFL's 100th season and the NFL Centennial.
Wow, and that's the year 2020, which is going to be here before we know it. Yeah. You know, going to Canton and being there myself, one thing I love about it is the nostalgia. Yeah. How do you keep that with also creating this new Disney-like village?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because the Hall of Fame always will have that history. You know, but the goal for the Hall of Fame, our mission is to honor the heroes of the game, preserve its history, but to promote its values and celebrate excellence. So our vision for the Hall of Fame is that it's not just about the past. It's not just about old footballs or jerseys or helmets under glass. It's really taking about what those things represent. You know, the thousands of hours of work and sweat and blood, and those values, the discipline, the dedication, the commitment, the teamwork, the courage, even the love, and passing that on to a whole new generation of young men and young women. So, you know, you've got Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium, you've got the National Youth Sports and Football Complex, which will be 12 football fields. So what Williamsport is to Little League Baseball, this is going to be to football. It'll have retail, it'll have a center for excellence, for coaching, officiating, for Center for Athletic Performance and Safety, so there's a lot of healthcare involved. There'll be Legends Landing, which is a senior care facility for former players, not just Hall of Famers and coaches. There will be a surgery center, an addiction center for guys who need help. But then there'll also be the Hall of Fame experience, and that'll be the kind of the attractions, the Disney elements. We just added at the Pro Football Hall of Fame a holographic locker room. You know, so you could actually be in the locker room with not only Joe Namath, but, you know, George Halas and Vince Lombardi as well.
It's so interesting about some of the healthcare initiatives. How did that come about, and what is the responsibility of the Pro Football Hall of Fame to get involved with, you know, the greats of the past who have fallen on hard times?
Well, you know, it's not just guys who have fallen on hard times. It's that, you know, guys are living longer. Since I've been there, except for Charlie Sanders, who died of cancer at 71, most of the guys who I have attended their funerals have been there in their late 80s or early 90s. So like a lot of people in life, late in life, they want to connect with something that was special to them. And so if we can help them reconnect to that locker room, we're doing the first thing that is the part of our mission, to honor the heroes of the game.
Yeah. I know your office is basically the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and I know from being there, you are walking around, you are talking to people who are coming through the doors, you're in touch with a lot of those fans. Sports Illustrated just did this huge project called Football in America.
Yeah.
And people were very conflicted about football. Some thought it was too dangerous, and then others thought that the game had gotten too soft.
Yeah.
What are you hearing as people are walking through the doors in Canton?
You know, you hear both, you know, from that standpoint, but I think, you know, our belief at the Hall is that we protect the game, you know, really by making it safer. But we think we really grow the game by focusing on its values. And it's a great equalizer. I mean, we just got off of a year's worth of turmoil in our election system. Sure. That's pitted people against each other and separated people apart. Football kind of brings us together. It brings communities together. It might, you know, it may be the NFL, it may be college, it may be that Friday night game. There have been well over 100 million guys that have played this game. Only 2.2 million in college. There's only 27,000 that have ever been paid to play it, coach it, or officiate it in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And in Canton, there's only 303 bronze busts and 171 living Hall of Famers. But the game isn't just for the very best. The game is for those kids who played it at the park and played it in high school, some of whom become the guys who defend our freedom in the military or our first responders. The game evolves and it develops. It's getting more popular than ever before.
Interesting. You talk about, the connection to the military and this connection towards, these sort of, some of the values that football brings in. What are fans telling you about some of the players who have decided to take a knee, who are deciding to protest? What have fans to the Hall of Fame been expressing to you?
Well, I think it's one of those things that people feel very strongly about, initially. And yet, I think from our perspective, you want players to care about society. How can we huddle up and really have a conversation about what's going on?
Do you want players like Colin Kaepernick and others from the Seattle Seahawks who have linked arms? Mike Evans even took a knee.
We'd love to have those guys come together and tell us, not just in a soundbite on television, but hey, let's get together and talk about that. Let's also get the police chief from Cleveland or from Dallas in there and talk about that. And when you do that, we all come together.
It's fantastic, fostering a sense of understanding and also keeping and maintaining those relationships that are so important. David Baker, congratulations on the new facility, which is scheduled to open in 2020. Smart City, which is exciting, almost an urban renewal happening in Canton, Ohio, and you guys are at the very center of it. Thank you.
Maggie, I hope you'll be the first one to come to Johnson Controls Hall of Fame Village.
Love to.
Okay, thank you, Maggie.
Our thanks to David Baker, and that's going to do it for this episode of SI Now. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern when we'll bring you our complete interview with Kentucky men's basketball coach John Calipari. But until then, stick with SI.com and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at SI Now Live. Have a great Thanksgiving and enjoy the games.